Welcome to PaintPot versions 1 and 2. In this lesson we're going to learn how to build an application that uses the canvas drawing capability. First we're going to need 3 buttons, so let's go ahead and in App Inventor pull 3 buttons onto our screen. And each of these buttons is going to have a different color established against them. So let me rename these. So the first button, let's call this the red button. And change its text to red. And just to make it easier to see, let's change the background color to red as well. And I'll do this for the other 2 buttons. Okay, once you're done with this, we're going to go ahead and take these buttons and we're going to place them so that they are horizontally aligned next to each other. And we do this using what's called a layout tool. In here there is a tool called the horizontal arrangement, so I'm going to drag that into our screen. Now one by one I'm going to take the buttons and pull them into this horizontal arrangement. When I pull the second button in, it can be kind of hard to tell where it's going to be dropped at. But if you take it and drop it right on top of the horizontal arrangement to the right of the current button that's in there, it will align up next to the other red button to the right. And I'll do the same thing for the green button. There are 2 final components that we need to add at this point. And those components are a canvas so that we can draw onto the screen. And we'll also add one additional component, another button, so that we can clear the screen if we want to start over. So in the Drawing and Animation folder, open that and pull out a canvas. We'll drag and drop that onto the screen. Now we want the canvas to be fairly big, so let's go ahead and change its size. I'm going to set it up so that it fills the parent width, and then I'll make the height of it about 300 pixels. For our purposes, that's a fairly large amount of the screen. And then I'm going to add one more button to this, and I'm going to call it the wipe button, and in my case I'm going to place it in the horizontal arrangement. So let me rename this button. I'm going to call it the wipe button. Change its text to wipe. And I'll leave its default color where it's at. Okay, now we can move to the blocks. Okay, on this side of things we need to know what's going to happen when we press the different buttons in the interface. So let's go ahead and start with the red button. You should be familiar with the when click command. So this will be when we click on a particular button, we want to do some action. And the action we're going to want to do here is we're going to want to set the drawing color that we're going to draw onto the canvas. So we need to go to the canvas component and move down to its properties area, and there will be a set canvas paint color. So in this particular case we're going to set the paint color to the color red. So I'll just drag that out. Now that just sets the color. We haven't actually drawn on the screen yet. To draw on the canvas, we actually have to do a touched canvas action. So let's find the canvas touched. So once we touch the canvas, we're going to draw something on it. In this case, we're going to set it up to draw a circle. So I need to call a draw circle command. So I'll go back to the canvas, and here is the draw circle command. I'll drag that out, and we're going to want to draw the circle at the location of the touch. In that case, it'll be on this X, so I can just grab this get X coordinate, and in this Y, I'll get the Y. Now the radius here is the size of the circle, or the radius of the circle that we want to draw. So we need to go to Math and grab a number. So we're going to start off with a size of a 5 pixel radius. Now the fill would mean, do we actually want to fill in the circle that's drawn on the screen? In this case, yes, so I'll leave that at true. Okay, now I'd like to go ahead and look at what this is going to seem or be like on a actual device. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the preview of this. I can't seem to get the actual emulator to work on my computer, so I'm going to show it on my phone. So here, if I press the red button on the phone and then tap on the screen, I should get little red drawing spots, which is what we want. Now if I press blue, nothing will happen, of course, because we haven't set that up yet. Okay, let's go back to the drawing board. Okay, we need to add a few more items here. We need to add 2 different button clicks for the different colors. So I'm just going to copy the red button and then change this to choosing the blue button, and then I'll choose a blue color here, and then we'll do this again for the green button, and we'll set it to a green color when that's chosen. Now I've already set something else up down here, which is the wipe button. This is to clear the screen when we're done working with the picture. Okay, one last thing I'm going to have us build here before we actually go back to the emulator and look at this is we want to add what's called a dragging function. At this point, all you can do is press on the screen and get a little circle, but it doesn't actually draw anything. So we want that drawing action to happen. So we're going to go back to the canvas, and we're going to grab the box called When Canvas Dragged, and we're going to bring this into the mix here. Now don't get concerned about all of these different options that are here. We're only going to be using a couple of them. So when we do this, what we're going to want to do is we're not going to actually draw a circle, we're going to draw a line. So we want to grab from the canvas one a draw line action, which is this one here. And for these coordinates here, these refer to the start of the line, and then these refer to the end of the line. So for the start of the line, we're going to go by grabbing what's known as the previous X. This is where you initially touched the screen when you began the drag event. And we'll do a previous Y as well. And then we're going to go to the current position where your finger is at the moment that it senses that you have finished the drag event. Okay, let's see if I can, keep grabbing it incorrectly here. Okay, now this should be enough. I'm going to move back to the other screen so we can view this. Okay, we're back over here. Now I should be able to press the different colors. And that's working. I should be able to press the wipe. But I should also be able to drag my finger. Ah, there we go. This is looking closer to a drawing program. Okay, that concludes PaintPot version 1. Okay, let's move on to PaintPot version 2. In this version, we're going to be adding a global variable so that we can set the size of the dot that's drawn onto the screen, either larger or smaller. So to do that, we're going to need to set up initially 3 variables. So I'm still in the same environment we were before, the PaintPot 1 environment. But now I want to set up some variables. So let's just grab and drag a variable here. And the first variable we're going to set up is called the dot size. So this will be the size of the pixel or the circle that we draw on the screen. So we'll set this up to whatever we want the smallest to be initially. Let's say we want to make that size 2. And then we are going to set up 2 other variables. I'll just duplicate this. And we'll call this big for the largest variable or dot size that we can have. Let's make that an 8. And I'll duplicate this again and we'll set this one to small and set this to the smallest size, which we know is 2. Alright, so where do we initially use the size of the circle? Well, we used that back here when we touched the canvas initially, where we set a radius here. So this radius here is set to a number. That number is 5. But what we really want to do is set it to a variable. The variable we've chosen for this is this dot size. So we're going to grab the get dot size and we're going to replace it in here for the current radius. We don't need this anymore, so I'll just trash it. But we're going to need to do a couple of additional items to our designer. We're going to need to add some buttons here, so let's go back to the designer. And I'm going to add a layout, a horizontal arrangement, and I'm going to put it right here above the canvas. And I'm going to put 2 buttons in here, and 1 and 2. And let me rename these. I'm going to call the first one Big Button and the other one Small Button. Let me change the text for the first one to Big and the other one to Small. So go back to my blocks designer. Let me find an empty spot here. I can go to our buttons and I can change the actions for what happens when I click this. So when I click the big button, I want to change the size of our pixel to the largest size possible. So let's go back. The variable that we've set up to hold our dot size is, of course, global dot size. And I want to change this to a particular size, which happens to be the variable get global big. Okay, so that's what we need to do to make the large dot. I can just go ahead and duplicate this, change this to the small button, and then change the size that we're setting this to the small size. Okay, let's go back to the emulator and view what's happening here. Okay, back at our screen now. If I choose a color and then choose big and just tap on the screen, I'll get a larger dot. If I choose the small, I'll get a smaller dot. And of course, if I change the color, I'll get those as well. Now, one thing that you may notice is that even if I choose big, I have big dots. When I tap, if I do a line, the line still stays the same size as it was originally, because we did not adjust that particular option when we created this. Okay, that's it. That's the end of Paint Pot 2 and the end of this assignment.